And it'll go quick, I promise. Even though it looks like there's a lot of slides, it'll go quick. So, yeah, we traveled end of March. We even probably the week before, we were, still trying to figure out whether it was really for sure going to happen or not. But, day before we were like, yeah, I guess it's happening.
Yeah, no,
So,
for Ukraine.
then I just want to let everybody know, like Protez Hub was the muscle behind this that helped gather all the sponsors in order to make this thing happen. Enhancing Skills for Life was the organization of the events themselves, like the education and the prosthetic component. But Protez Hub found all of these sponsors to help make it a reality. And just so you guys know, this is something that happened because of a phone call back last October. And we had been doing some educational work with Protez Hub with upper limb loss rehabilitation. And then, some more soldiers had kind of come into the fray that had lost both arms. So we started doing some education in that realm. And so it was, we could keep doing these educational Zooms forever. And, who knows how long the war will last. So the idea of doing a 4-day in-person kind of Skills for Life type event came up. And so I put something together. Tanya found the sponsors and basically said, make it happen. So I just want to give a brief overview for anyone that may not be familiar with kind of the layout of Ukraine and then the travel that it takes to get there. But what we did with this outreach mission was it was held in this area, this region of Ukraine called Ivano-Frankivsk. And it's what we did there was a mix of a Skills for Life workshop
Yeah.
and along with 6 bilateral prosthetic fittings and OT trainings. So just to give you a reference, I like this map because I'm from Texas, but just to give you a size reference of how big Ukraine is compared to Texas. And then our team that traveled with us, they're all here on this call, but Anya Mareka from North Carolina, Christy Turner from Chicago, David from Chicago, who's not on the call. He's a prosthetist. Christy's an OT. Samwana Matagi is from Salt Lake City, Utah. Myself from Texas, Mike from Arizona, and Eric from Denver, Colorado. And so we all traveled from our respective cities and states over to Warsaw, Poland. And so, whether we were going over the North Pole or across the Atlantic or whatever, however it was, long flights just to get there. But once we were in Poland, there's no flying in Ukraine. So we had to figure out a different way or a way to get to Ukraine. And again, Protez Hub arranged all of the travel and all the logistics. But so we ended up doing a bus from Warsaw to Lviv. And if you see in this map, it would normally take about 8 hours to get there or, longer with stops. But because of you going through customs for 2 different countries, this ended up being about a 12-hour trip with stops as well. So we left at about 8:30, 8:20 the night before from Warsaw, and we arrived into Ivano-Frankivsk the next morning at 9:20 a.m. So it's, a few of us spent a day or two in Warsaw, and that helped us kind of acclimate. But Dave Rotter and Yulia, our friend from Seattle, they both arrived that day, and then had to get on this 12-hour bus ride. So I'm going to keep going here. Day 1, we start the program, which was the day after we arrived in Ivano-Frankivsk, and the room was pretty packed. So I think they were surprised, and more people showed up than what they anticipated. But first, we had Eric share his story, followed by Anya, and then Mike and Sam, and so the trip and bringing the idea behind making sure that Eric and Anya and Mike and Sam could attend was, we all know how important the peer-to-peer connections are, and showing how successful they are in their independence with day-to-day life was imperative that they were going to be part of this trip and part of this mission. So we had to explain kind of what is Skills for Life and what is Enhancing Skills for Life. But for the OT side of things, we basically, Christy and myself, we said, how hard this is without like an agenda every day to take what between the two of us, take all of that information and then condense it into 4 days. And then take the experiences of Mike and Anya and Eric and Sam and condense that into 4 days as well. But the aims we knew going into it was we were wanting to train the therapist, train the prosthetist, fit for patients was the initial directive. And then we were going to have, our ESFL ambassadors mentoring to the other amputees and healthcare professionals, and then talk about adaptive equipment and demonstrate that adaptive equipment. But the goal is sustainability of prosthetics and rehabilitation when it comes to limb loss rehabilitation in Ukraine. So I just an overview of what we covered on the different days. Day one, was kind of just introductory, and then day two covering how to put a prosthesis on and how to take it off, and then bathing, toileting, grooming. Day three, we covered some other topics, and day four was, once the patients had been fit with prosthetics and were ready to start using them and learning how to do things with them. That happened on day four. We also talked about sports and driving and other miscellaneous topics. So here is the group of individuals that kind of really helped show everybody, all the therapists, the ergotherapists in the audience, what being independent looks like and how they do their tasks differently throughout all their different activities of daily living differently. So while we were working in the hospital, the Ivano-Frankivsk Regional Clinical Hospital, there was a whole other team of prosthetists working in a prosthetic lab doing their prosthetic fittings. And so it's, you can still take 20 plus years of knowledge and condense that. It's hard, but it might be a little bit harder because it's a lot of hands-on and practical experience. But they were exposed to a lot of new products and the best practices for fitting someone that's living without both arms. So it was a really ideal situation to transfer this knowledge from Dave to about 7 prosthetists, local Ukrainian prosthetists from different regions of Ukraine. And so the aims of that group was training the prosthetists, fitting patients, and then the mentorship. But again, the sustainability point is we wanted to go over there and teach them what they needed to know so that they would then take that back out into their communities and teach other people. So here are 6 patients that Dave ended up fitting, and then a second page of those individuals. So the reason, there was lots of discussion ahead of time about what types of prosthetic devices they'd be fit with, and they have the opportunity to be fit with multiple prosthetic devices through the government program and the funding that they have for the soldiers. And so, here's just 2 quick videos of the why of, what we were hoping to accomplish, we did. So this is within 4 days. And in some cases 2, I'll turn the volume down.
Well, the video on the left was a little bit faster than that. He had just been fit within about 10 minutes.
Oops, sorry, Mike, let me turn the volume down.
Yeah.
That was within 10 minutes. Well, yeah, so, but he was within a day of, this was within a day of being fit, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, I think, let's see. I'm going to play a video, from Dave really quick. It's about 10 minutes, just so you can kind of hear his perspective. And then I'm going to open it up for questions from our attendees. Let's see.
Great, Dave. So do you want to start by explaining a little bit about your background and how you got involved in Ukraine?
Sure. So, first of all, hello, ESFL community. I'm really sorry that I can't be on this call. When you're having this, I'll be in the middle of a meeting with another important organization, ACMOC. Sorry, I can't be there. So I got involved with Ukraine. Our fearless leader, Sean Swanson Johnson, reached out and said, "Would you be interested in going to Ukraine?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." But I did kind of have certain parameters that I wanted to see for the trip, and that we would be able to do hands-on work over there, and that we'd be able to work with local prosthetists to give them techniques so that when we left, it was totally sustainable. And I have to say, everything went perfectly, perfect to plan.
Good, good. How did you prepare for what you would be fitting and knowing that you wanted to implement, kind of like learning along the way?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone on this call should understand and appreciate how much work Sean put into this from an organizational standpoint. There was a ton that needed to be done to make sure that all the logistics were in place. That is travel, that is lodging, and Tanya from Cortez Hub was incredible in helping along the way. And my part in it was to make sure that we were able to communicate with the local prostitutes to first identify the patients and then identify what their needs are. And that's what I did. I, identified what components, the pieces and parts that we needed with BDD. And then Phil Hour was wonderful in helping us kind of get that. There was, just I suppose procedural stuff that Phil Hour Europe had to take the order and Phil Hour US couldn't, and so on. So we learned about that as well. But that was our preparation, just to make sure that we had all the pieces and parts like in country when we were actually seeing patients.
Absolutely. And was there more logistics, beyond that to make sure that you had the right equipment and parts for each patient and their different needs?
No, I think we also learned how things are handled in Ukraine. So we were dealing with 3 specific private companies that were seeing the different patients. So we were supposed to see 4 people. We wound up seeing 6. But among the original 4, there were 3 separate companies. So we learned that we couldn't just order stuff in bulk. Each company had to order specific parts for the specific patient that they were taking care of.
And so you said it was originally 4 and ended up being 6. Did you know who the patients were ahead of time and their specific needs?
We did, and again, I think it's thank you to Tanya from Cortez Hub, who was just amazing. It's as we were planning this, and we were planning this for months prior to the trip. There's this rolling need, so 4 months prior, that person could be fit already, and then there's another need. Unfortunately, there's just so much need right now. So as we got closer, we identified the people that were actually going to be coming, and then we were able to hone in on what we needed for them.
How many prosthetists did you have, from Ukraine that were kind of helping get everything ready?
So that part I'm not sure, but in total at the facility that we were using, I worked with 7 local people. And after we're done with this Zoom, I'm going to send you photos. So hopefully you can kind of sprinkle that into the so that people can see kind of what we did. We started with casting technique, and then we went over socket fittings and harnessing, and then the actual use of the devices themselves. So I'll send you what hopefully is like a lineage of that experience.
Yeah, that would be great. And then to go along kind of with those pictures, can you explain in just like basic terms from start to finish the molding and the fitting process and all that you guys did?
Yeah. So so the people on this call might be familiar with that if they're users. It's not dissimilar than what happens here in the U.S. We're taking a plaster mold or a fiberglass mold of the person's limb. Then we pulled tap sockets, and we only had 4 days to do all this, which is a very short amount of time. So what we wound up doing is we fitted people in their test sockets, make sure everything felt comfortable, and then we did like almost like temporary setup, keeping in mind that they would be transferred to the more definitive fittings after we left.
Do you think there was products or techniques that they had not seen before that you guys were using?
Without question. And I think for me, that was the most fulfilling. That's not true. The most fulfilling part is seeing people feed themselves for the first time by themselves. But very gratifying for me to know that, like, when I left, my specific part to play in all of this, when I left, I really feel like they can kind of pick up the ball and really do a successful job of fitting this level. And they can get a hold of me if they have any questions. We became, friends and colleagues. And it was a really nice collaboration with the Ukrainian prosthetists. But because they're in Europe, not necessarily even exposed to Phil Hour products, which is an American-based company. They tend to use a little more out-of-box stuff. So yes, they were able to see different elbows, different hooks, different harnessing techniques that they were not familiar with.
That's amazing. Will they be able to continue, making devices using those products they haven't seen before, or are they limited still to what they already know?
No, they are. They're able to, now that they're familiar with what they are, they have access to it. So Phil Hour has distribution in Europe. It's called Phil Hour Europe. And so if they needed those components, that have access to it. They actually, from a standpoint of resources, Ukraine is a first world nation, and they have the resources. This was just a matter of being exposed to things that they had not been exposed to, and some technique.
Very cool. Circling back to, you said about, it was 4 days for the 6 patients, and how, how intensive that is. What was your, start and end time each day?
Our time was as soon as possible, and time was as late as possible. So we got there. I mean, we were there at 8, and as soon as people started streaming in, it was go time. And we finished no earlier than 9, and at the last day we finished 11:30 p.m.
Wow.
So it is a feat to fit 6 people, bilateral or limb amputees, that are complicated, in 4 days, and we did it. We did it, which was wonderful.
Yes, it's amazing. I think we're all kind of amazed by the progress you guys made over there.
Yeah, that it was great.
What kind of change did you notice any change in the patients themselves from, day 1 versus day 4? You mentioned, seeing them, feed themselves for the first time. Was that kind of the biggest takeaway?
Yes, I think, day 1, I think there was healthy skepticism among the patients, as there should be. They didn't know us, they didn't know what we were bringing. And there was perhaps, I don't know if there was skepticism among the prosthetists, but I mean, I think there was just kind of a sense of, okay, let's see what's going to happen. But certainly among the patients, there was healthy skepticism that transferred to joy. I think, once they realized, oh my goodness, this is actually so functional. And I will send you videos after we're done talking, and you're going to see that. You're going to see that all of a sudden people realize, now I have the tools and the pieces and parts to be able to care for myself, and do it in a way that is intuitive. People were doing things that defy the ability to believe that they were doing it 5 minutes, 10 minutes after being fit, because as many of the participants of this call know, body powered prosthetics is incredibly intuitive, and functional.
And are you connected with the CPs by WhatsApp or text or email for any follow-up questions or concerns?
I am. Yeah. I mean, in our modern world of, social media and interaction, there's various different ways, WhatsApp or Instagram, but absolutely, I'm watching what they're doing now in Ukraine, and, I made it very clear that if there's anything I can do to help, I'm happy to do so.
And is there anything that you would like the U.S. and Ukrainian CPs to know about this trip or experience that we haven't already kind of touched on?
Yes, that the basis for a successful trip like this is sustainability. It's great if you go somewhere with the best of intentions and do something, but you're almost doing a disservice if whatever you've done cannot be serviced where you just left. Okay? Because cables will break and straps will, get old, and things will tear, and it's going to happen. So without local support, you're actually almost doing a disservice to the individual if you've not established that. So this is really what we did is the best model possible, because from a fitting perspective, we basically let the local folks, take the charge and do the fittings, and I helped and gave them guidance on what they can do. So in Ukraine, occupational therapists are called ergos. So they have the opportunity to learn from Sean and Christy technique. And maybe the most amazing part about it was our, U.S. patient ambassadors that came, and hopefully they're on the call and they'll talk about their experience, to interact with the Ukrainian ergos, the Ukrainian prosthetists, the Ukrainian patients, and give them tips and tricks. You can't get more comprehensive and wonderful than what we did.
I agree. I think it was amazing. I think you guys had some incredible results too, even just from seeing the pictures and videos. So hopefully that is portrayed well on the call.
Yeah, I hope so. And I also hope that it inspires anyone that wants to do work like this to see a model that really should be followed.
Right, absolutely. And I think that you guys setting that tone for the sustainability is huge for that to do it again in the future.
All right. So that was kind of the end of the interview. I think they were just saying goodbye there for the last 20 seconds. But so the next part is basically we had some questions that we passed around amongst our group. And so I was going to kind of go around, let's see, I didn't mean to hit stop share. I was gonna kind of go around and ask those questions of everybody in a certain sequence and order. So let me pull that up. Let's see. All right. All right, so first up is Eric. Eric, and this question is going to be for everybody, but first we'll have Eric. What was the moment that most impacted you?
If we recall the picture where the ambassadors and some of the Ukrainian people, there was an older lady that was off to your right.
I'll pull it up.
Older, she was probably younger than me. But she came in, she was not military, but her family tried to leave the country, and at an outpost, the Russians with machine guns shot the car up, killed most of her family, and she was left AEBE. She has an eye limb on there. She was very quiet for the first 3 days. Nobody could ask her any questions. You had to go through her son. She was just very somber, kind of untouchable. And I don't know what happened on Thursday. I'll probably start crying. We were doing things together. And all of a sudden, she just kind of got up. She went over. We were stacking cups. People were stacking cups. She got her eye limb. She was stacking cups. She was doing some hangers, putting them on a post. She was smiling. She was talking. She wanted to come over and have a picture taken with everybody. And it just kind of blew her son's mind that her mom changed so quickly. It'll probably always be impactful for me just to see how this lady had changed.
Thank you, Eric. Mike, you're next.
Yeah, I agree with everything Eric just said. So I think for me, one of the best things about Skills for Life is the peer-to-peer interaction, and then just watching everyone come out of their shell, the first day. Obviously, what she went through was horrible and horrific, and limb loss in and of itself can be very traumatic, but for it to happen that way is even more worse. But just everyone is reserved and quiet on the first day, and then the second day people are starting to warm up and get more interested in more interaction, and by the last day of the program, it's always like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to leave yet, I have so many more questions, and how can we stay in touch, and all of that stuff that goes on here happened over there as well. And that's what I really found was most impactful, because just what this program can do, and the peer-to-peer reaching out and learning from each other is always for me the highlight of anything that we do as an organization.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, Sam, you're next. What was the moment that most impacted you?
I think it's pretty much the same thing, just the demeanor of the people's the 6 amputees, especially Serhi and the other Serhi. They in the first few days they just walked around and kind of a straight face, and then at the end of the time they were smiling and laughing and telling jokes, and then I also enjoyed that Serhi, I think it's V, the little short one.
That's me.
His wife was making him do everything when we were upstairs, like, oh, like he'd be getting done with one thing, like picking up a can, and then she'd be like, now do this, now do Dennis. And I was like, oh yeah, get her. Go get him. So that was indicating to me that she was looking and seeing that a sense of freedom, not only for him, but for her.
Yep. Yep. And it was, sorry, it was Z, but I got it wrong. All right. Thank you, Sam. Anya, what was the moment that most impacted you?
That's a hard one, because listen, when I landed in Charlotte, I literally cried on the plane, just because I think all of the emotions just came out. Obviously, what's her name? Irina?
Which the interpreter or the patient?
No, the patient.
Patient Katerina.
Katerina. Okay, well, anyways, her like Eric said, I mean, that was the first thing that came to my mind, because I just kept thinking, how can we help her if she's not willing to open up and ask and experience things? But when she did, it was amazing. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. But also, I don't know if anybody here knows, but I was born without arms. So like, I've never experienced anybody kind of gaining back their independence in life and doing those things for the first time, again, on their own. And like Sam mentioned, it was just incredible to see first, the wives and the family members kind of helping the patients out with everything, and then it switched to them really, really trying to do things on their own, and just being so determined and persistent, and just getting it done on their own was just like, I could sit there and watch that forever, seriously, because the joy that brought, I mean, that just made the whole trip worth everything. So that, I mean, there's been a lot of amazing moments that happened on that trip, and I'm just thankful I was able to be there and experience it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you needed to be there, Anya. Like, it's, again, you're coming at it from a different perspective, but the things that you had to offer the therapists and the limb loss individuals was crucial as well. Okay, Christy, you are next. What was the moment that most impacted you?
I mean, I think everyone said it. It was profound to see the difference with everyone. And Sean maybe laughing because I'm thinking about Andre's wife. Sean remembers when I said to her the first day, I said, this woman's very intense. Like, she's really like, wow. But by the end, it was like hugging and very happy. So it was awesome just seeing the transformation. So I don't think I can really add anything else. The only other thing I'd say that another huge impact was that last night when we were at the prosthetic clinic, there was a few of us went over there and having Andre sing some of the songs. He sang one that he sang on his way to the front line to his group, because he was in charge of 20 soldiers. And then he also sang I think I'm not sure if it was like a lullaby or what you would call that, right? Wasn't it a lullaby, Sam? Yeah. And Sam shared, it was just really fun to like talk about cultural stuff, and everyone shared. And Sam and I learned how to do a dance. Yeah, Ukrainian dance. So anyway.
I was just going to pull up a picture of Andre, who Christy is talking about, that sang. Andre is one of the gentlemen that was fit, and he was a last second kind of add-on. But just so everybody on this call knows, he's a very unique circumstance where he also lost both of his eyes in his combat injury. And that's a very challenging situation. So, but he's come up with some amazing creative ways to manage a phone, or to eat or get around. So that was a pretty cool experience to watch. And if you guys read the newsletter from last month too, he was part of our spotlight. But yeah, thank you, Christy. And then I'm going to go back to the questions.
What about you, Sean? You forgot to.
Oh, I'm not doing it because we only have 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
per
All right.
question. But I mean, I've struggled completely with trying to put into words what we experienced. So I think the whole thing impacted me. I just remember the first morning before we got started and seeing the group of people forming, and the people that were coming into that small room and going, holy crap, I can't believe after 4 months of doing, working on this, it's finally actually here. So yeah. Okay, so question number 2. That is, tell me about the person you met that you hope to meet again and why. And the first person to answer, we're kind of going in order, but now in a loop. So Mike, you're first on this one.
Yeah, I guess Andres, the blind warrior, simply because he's so damn intelligent, man. And just the upside for him is, for me, in my perception, like limitless. Like, he is just going to figure everything out that he wants to do. And that's, I mean, they're all going to figure it out as far as what they want to do. And that's definitely one of the things I also liked the best was the people that have been already fit with prosthetics had reached the same conclusions for solutions to a common problem that we've all experienced. So it just speaks to the human nature of things. But Andres definitely, for me, I think would be like in a year, I just to have my mind blown by what he's doing, I think would be the most interesting.
I think at some point in the near future, Christy and Dave might be able to give us updates, but I'll get to you in a second, Christy, but first I'm going to go to Sam about the person that you hope to meet again and why.
Same, Henri is, like the last night, me and him, like we shared songs from our cultures. I sang him a song in Samoan and he sang me a song, and then he sang another song, and then I did the haka for them, and so it was kind of a special moment. So I hope to see him again, and I hope to see him, like, he already is killing it, but just give him another 2 more years, he'll be ultra killing it.
Yeah, staying overnight by himself on that last night and making it down to the lobby through a set of stairs, that just blew me away. All right, next is Anya. Tell me about
I guess we all want to see Andre. And what I was thinking is, originally we were all kind of thinking, since he lost his sight, is it gonna make sense for him to be fitted with a prosthetic? And that picture that you showed, Sean, I believe that was like when he first got the hook on, and he was like, whoa, I can scratch myself. And it's those little things right there. He was scratching his face and his head, and it was just so awesome because it's those little things that, quite frankly, a lot of people take for granted. and for him to be enjoying it so much, I just want to see what he's capable of doing, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line. And his positivity and his humor and all of that is just what makes him just a special guy. And for as young as he is, it was just incredible to meet him.
So Anya, I have a quick question for you. There's a picture I have, or I saw recently that it looked like he and his wife Alina were talking to you about foot skills. And so is that anything that they ever tried to address with you? I mean, because it was something that had been brought up in the past of him trying to use his feet for certain tasks. What kind of conversations did you have with them about that, if any?
Yeah, we did, and I was actually very surprised that he was so open about things, because and let me say this: Polish people are not very open about taboo topics. So I was expecting kind of the same from people in Ukraine, and I was kind of worried because I'm like, well, we're here to share everything we possibly can. And so when the two of them came up to me and Andri said, listen, I wanted to ask you, how do you wipe yourself? I was like, yes. Like I was so happy to just have him be so honest and open to ask that question, because we don't often talk about that, not openly at least. So that was awesome. And it was a lot of, I tried my best to explain things. Obviously I couldn't show him, so it was kind of between me and his wife explaining what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I think he's gonna get there with a lot of things. I know he has tried some of my methods. It's gonna take some practice because normally people are not that flexible, but he will definitely be able to use his feet to some extent to help him out too.
Good, good. Thank you. Okay, so Christy, you're next. I feel like I know your answer, but I'm gonna be curious to see what you say.
I said everyone. Yeah, I honestly, everyone, because I think obviously we want the patients and their families, but I also would love to see like the therapists and see like what they've done since we've left. Like, oh, here's like them to share more cases or like more individuals they've worked with and how it's impacted them. And I really would like to see the team that worked with us, like Elena, who made sure we were safe every day, Julia, Irina, like all the team of people that helped us. I wanted obviously most certainly see all of them as well. So yeah, is that what answer you thought I was gonna say?
No, I thought you were gonna say Katerina, just because of how she came out of her shell and you bonded over the Reese's Pieces.
Oh yes, I know. Well, I mean, I would bond with anybody that likes Reese's pieces, but yes, no, of course her too. No, I mean honestly everybody. I think they were really, it was such a great group, and just yeah, so for sure I'd love it.
I was just gonna say, like, just if it would, yeah, they are in a war zone, so it'd be great to see everyone still alive.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say too. Right. Is that if we see everyone, we know everyone's okay.
Yeah,
Which is yeah.
yeah.
Sean, who's yours?
Well, so, sorry, first let me let Eric answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
No,
That's
no.
all-
You
That's all
should have
right.
did the whoop to get my attention.
All those were impactful, but I get to thinking about Sean, those two guys in the gray. I forgot their names.
Okay, hold on, let me pull them up. So this would be
Yes. No.
Roman and Sarah.
No, the other picture with the blind guy. Yes.
Oh, these two,
So
okay.
the gentleman on to the left, they were cast one day. They gave temporary sockets in the morning the next, and they were feeding themselves that afternoon. A 5-position wrist, and they were rotating that with a fork and a spoon, just like it was old hat. And I would love to meet those guys again to see how far they have come. But not only that, but hopefully their willingness to teach others, that this would just be a catalyst for where in the future.
Yep, pay it forward. Okay, so I haven't mentally prepared to answer these questions. So I'm gonna just go ahead and go on to question number 3. Okay, so what inspired you to go on this long journey? And so first up we have Sam.
Well, I just thought about like when I was first amputated, and what was the most helpful to me was Jason Koger, like taking the time to explain to me how to use the bathroom. And so I think from all the interactions with other amputees, it seems like a peer is super important, and I didn't want to be the guy, they say do a good deed and pass it along. Well, if I would have not said no, then I would have felt like I just did a good deed but didn't pass it along. I failed.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Anya, what inspired you to go to Ukraine?
Well, this hit home because, you know, I grew up in Poland, so um that touched my heart in a little bit of a different way. But also, I grew up without knowing anybody who was in a similar situation than me, so I never had anybody to ask questions or to show me how they do things, to share those tips and tricks. So ever since I started coming to the Skills for Life conferences, I mean, oh my goodness, I wish I had that years and years ago. So I thought if I could be a part of that for somebody else, especially at the beginning of their journey, then that is incredible, because there's just nothing like it to, one, know that you're not alone, and two, to kind of speed up the process of gaining back your independence because you're learning from other people who already have years you know, of experience living without their limbs. So yeah, I think we did a good job. It was incredible.
Thank you, Anya. All right, Christy, what inspired you to go to Ukraine?
I mean, same. It's, yeah. I mean, I remember posting on my Facebook wall about having the Ukrainian flag on my page, and you know, praying for Ukraine and all that type of thing. And so when you brought this to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually do something. Wow, that's great. Like, because I feel like often we're powerless with many things, so it felt good to be able to do it. So that's it. Yeah.
Yep, I'd agree there.
Mhm.
All right, Eric, you're next.
Well, I'll have to admit, Sean, the first thing was because of you. I know you wouldn't do this, but as long as it wasn't illegal or immoral, if you asked me, I would probably try to do it.
That's like,
Besides that, it's probably what Sam said. It was 10 months after being an amputee and 8 months after getting arms that I went to TIR, and they fitted me up with another amputee, as Sam talked about. And of all the things I was down there for 3 weeks, the most impactful was meeting that other amputee and asking those hard questions that Anya brings up, is how do you wipe? How do you brush your teeth? How do you do this? How do you do that? And that was so memorable and impacting on me that I said, if I ever have a chance to do that, I'll do it.
yeah, I mean, not one of you hesitated, so that's speaks volumes. Okay, so Mike, what inspired you to go on this long journey?
Well, Eric stole it. It was you and Christy. I figured if you guys are nuts enough to go, I like crazy. I will follow crazy right off the edge, man. So yeah, it just seemed, you know, can we help? And obviously we can. I've seen the program. I get it. So I felt strongly, like echoing everyone else's sentiment, like we're there to help. And I think we did, and hopefully they'll be able to pass it on forward to, you know, their brethren over there.
Yep, it's a combination of what Christy said and you know, feeling powerless and feeling like you can actually do something, and just and to know that we would have some sort of impact, a sustainable impact on their community. All right, so the next question is, what 2 things surprised you the most? Anya, you are first up. If you don't have an answer, don't worry. You don't. I don't.
No. I just wasn't ready to unmute myself. Wait. What surprised me, and I've kind of mentioned that already, but it was the fact that they were so open about talking about things that are not easy to talk about, because, you know, people don't usually discuss things like that. And so when you go through a big life change like that, and now you kind of have to ask, or it's beneficial for you to ask, I was really just hoping that they would, and they did. And we've discussed just about anything. and it was amazing because that was the part that I think scared me the most, just because I know how different cultures can be. So I was just very thankful that they did, because it's hard to be able to help if the person is not open to that help. And the fact that they were was just, it made all the difference.
But thank you, Anya. Okay, Christy, what surprised you the most?
From having no experience being in a war zone before, I think I only could rely on movies. So I was not expecting everyone to act so normal, and actually the idea that this has become such a normal thing, which is terrible in itself, but that they all want to pursue education and improve things during all of this happening at the same time. They're getting messages. We're all getting alerts of air alerts and things happening at their own homes that they left to come over and be with us. But that was surprising, just to see how resilient. I mean, it's not surprising, but just the fact that they did so many things at the same time. It was very awe-inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Just the normality of the day, or just going along and doing their best to make life as normal as possible.
Right, exactly. And meanwhile, as a side note, these are like, during this time, fighter jets are going over us all the time. There's air alerts where you're hearing those sirens and things, and they're going along. So
yeah. Oh, Eric, you are next. What surprised you the most?
Well, a couple of things. I guess the bonding, how we bond so quickly with them, even though there was a language barrier. And just a comment I make at the celebration on Thursday, we came in as strangers and left as family, and that's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And what other surprised me, there was a lot of people from our church praying about our trip, that the luggage would make it, the flights would make it. But as I got to really thinking about this, the 6 of us were together, sun up to past sundown, traveling together, a lot of stresses, and yet we got along so well.
We did.
Very touching.
Yep, we did. I cannot believe we got all of the luggage all the way there and all the way back home through all of the transitions. All right, so thank you, Eric. Mike, you are next. What surprised you the most?
Yeah, kind of echoing Christy, like sleeping through the air raid in the hotel the last night.
yeah,
Like,
I will tell you, Mike,
hear it?
as a side note, I have nightmares about that, because all I could think about was, how am I going to go get Mike and get his legs on? Yeah. And then I found out you slept through it.
Christy and I have talked about this, and it's because we, at dinners, when we would see you struggling putting your liner on, so it would be the correct, placement. We were like, oh my God, we have to only give 1 minute to get this.
Yes.
Pirate code.
Yeah.
Pirate
like
code.
I said, Sean knows, I was like, I had nightmares. I thought I was never going to get him out of that room. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Yeah.
And then also echoing the luggage kind of thing, or like, I was surprised how much crap you can pack in a friggin' Prius. Just like, God dang, man, like trying to get from point A to point B with 8 people, 7 people, and all of our show and tell and all that junk, and just day after day of schlepping that stuff around in these tiny little cars. That was crazy.
Yeah, the cars were very small. There is the point of that. Us Americans do things big, as we all know, and it showed it in the cars there.
Yeah.
It was like all Priuses, and we were trying to fit in 7 people with lots of bags.
Yeah, so that was cool.
So I wouldn't say that it would surprise me, and Sam, you're going to be next, but I would say like the taxi cab or the Uber drivers, they surprise me the most. Like their skill level with pedestrians and curves and corners and small spaces. Holy crap. All right, Sam, what surprised you the most?
I was surprised by the amount of flavors of energy drinks there are. And then
I wholeheartedly was expecting to see a picture of every one of those flavors you tried, but I didn't see them yet. Yeah.
and then there was this one Coke Zero Lime Mint. So good.
You found it in the States?
No.
No, we had it there. Sean,
Oh.
did you not have any of it? Maybe
No.
Anya and I drank it.
Best one ever.
Anya loved it. I thought it was disgusting.
She has a European taste buds, that's why.
Yeah.
I do. I'm
Okay,
proud of
okay.
it.
I have one more question to go through, but then I think we have some questions in the chat bar. So, what do you wish people in your hometown or in the US in general knew about people in Ukraine? Christy, you're first.
I have to look at my answer because I did answer this. Okay, sorry. Just that the war is not over. I think because we don't hear about it in our news anymore, because unfortunately there's so much other tragedies going on, that just remember it's not over and we need to support them. And I'd say reach out to your senators, reach out to your legislation to try to see we're doing our best. Mike, Sam did an amazing thing and they should tell about that. But trying to advocate to get this money over to them to help them.
Yeah, I think Mike and Sam, if you guys for this question could add what you just got back from doing, that would be great. Okay, Eric, you're next. What do you wish people knew about people in Ukraine?
You know, they are a loving people that's in the middle of a war that we've never been involved in that over here. So we have really no idea. But those people love their country very, very much.
Yep. All right, Mike, you're next.
Yeah, definitely echo that sentiment. The country itself is physically beautiful. It reminded me a lot of different sections of this country. I've been fortunate enough to travel coast to coast. So yeah, when we got back, Sam and I were invited to go to Washington, D.C. and advocate with the Ukrainian Americans that are here. So that was cool. That was definitely an honor and a privilege that I felt strongly I definitely needed to do. Eventually the bill did pass, so that's cool. It's been signed. But yeah, the war's not over and they're gonna need future help, more money. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Mike. Sam, you're next.
I wish that people knew the types of people that are losing their limbs and the people that are manning the front lines. They're not trained soldiers. A lot of them are just IT guy, professor guy. They love their country that much. It reminds me sort of like the Revolutionary War, except for we were fortunate enough here in the United States to have a whole ocean between us. And they're right next to the guys they're fighting. That's their neighbor.
Yeah. Sam, you
And I forgot, one of the other things that surprised me most is when my phone was translating the writing on the wall. I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
Yes, Google Lens. Try it out if you haven't. It's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
a game changer.
But so Sam,
Good
can
call.
you tell a little bit about your DC experience too? Just how you went to go. It was the Ukrainian Action Summit in DC. And so you were there visiting your legislators to help to encourage them to pass the aid, right?
Yeah, it's interesting to go to DC and find out how our country runs, and it's kind of slow and grinding, but the thing that makes the DC move is people's voices. And me and Mike were lucky and fortunate enough to go and meet our senators and try to plead on their behalf. Who knows if they did or did not, but maybe a few did, and we're happy they did.